Hey guys, today I'm doing Gatsby, alright, the main character himself. Who is he and how did he come to all this trouble that he's been through and how did he die at the end, and all that will be covered in today's video. Who is he? He's a wealthy, glamorous and mysterious figure who throws lavish parties at his mansion in Long Island, New York. A Midwestern youth called James Gatz who has reinvented himself. So this tells you a lot about his personality. A man who seems to embody idealistic love, but in fact has close connections with the criminal underworld. Very important, because he associates with himself with very criminalistic people, if I may. Now, Jay Gatsby is Nick Carraway's neighbor in West Egg Village, Long Island. Nick, our narrator, lives in a small house, and Gatsby, however, has a huge mansion set in an enormous garden. He is attended by servants, owns expensive cars, motorboats, and a hydroplane. Gatsby regularly throws lavish parties with fine food and drink and music for dancing, and very importantly, you have to know that we don't come to understand or to even meet Gatsby until like chapter 3 or 4 of The Great Gatsby, the novel. Before Nick meets Gatsby, he imagines him to be a florid and corpulent person in his middle years. In fact, he is a year or two over 30. Suntanned and handsome, with short hair, well-groomed and immaculately dressed. Although he is an extravagantly generous host, he drinks very little and keeps himself apart. He's distant from the people that attend his parties. Almost an onlooker at his own parties. He is regarded as Mr. Nobody from Nowhere. Gatsby's background is a mystery. Tom Buchanan calls him Mr. Nobody from Nowhere. And because not much is known about Gatsby, there's a lot of gossip about him. He is said to have attended Oxford University. A common rumor suggests that he has killed a man, and there's also speculation that he was a German spy working for the enemy during the First World War, and that he is related to the German ruler Kaiser Wilhelm II. These rumors suggest perhaps that Gatsby's physical appearance is Germanic, because why would someone associate him with Germans? Nick has discovered some details of Gatsby's actual background, and as he narrates the story, he gradually discloses more and more of the facts that lie behind Gatsby's image as a man of mystery. Now, in terms of Gatsby's greatness, the title The Great Gatsby prepares us as readers for the story of an exceptional man. Now think carefully about elements of his story that show Gatsby to be in some sense great. Pay attention to character flaws that suggest just the opposite of greatness. Remember that Nick, our narrator, is the lens through which we see Gatsby. Is it a distorting lens, or can we trust the image of Gatsby that eventually appears within Nick's account? What are we to make of Nick's assessment that Gatsby turned out alright at the end? Now, there's a massive transportation from Gats to Gatsby, and I'm gonna talk about that, but before I do, there's a historical foundation for speculation that Gatsby's family have Northern European roots. Today, nearly a fifth of the American population can claim German ancestry, with a particularly high concentration in Midwestern states. So this is very important because of the rumors that are associated with Germans. Now, James Gatz grew up in North Dakota, in America's Midwest, the son of unsuccessful farm people. At 17, he changed his name to Jay Gatsby, and as a boy, he explored the shores of Lake Superior, becoming physically fit and getting to know the natural world in that area. Okay, so this maybe enabled him to warn Dan Cody that his yacht was moored in a potentially dangerous place, which of course gained the trust of Cody. Now, Cody, who had grown rich prospecting for precious metals, became a kind of surrogate father for Gatsby. Following Cody's death, Gatsby became involved with the gambler Mayor Wolfsheim, a shady and sinister figure from the underworld of organized crime. Wolfsheim not only describes Gatsby as a perfect gentleman and a man of fine breeding, but he suggests that he is the kind of man you'd like to take home and introduce to your mother and sister. So he talks very highly of him. And Gatsby clearly has charm, an element of charisma. Nick notices especially that he has, and I quote, has one of those rare smiles with a quality of eternal reassurance in it. Now, what really made Gatsby great and how did he get there? Gatsby takes great pains to present himself as a gentleman and a man of breeding. He owns a Rolls-Royce car, which is a very fancy car, especially at that time, and has his clothes bought at expensive shops in London. He habitually uses the term all sport, a phrase intended to make him seem upper class. So is he trying to be someone who he really isn't? Yes. Did he change himself to become someone he isn't? Also yes. Gatsby is acting out a role, and Nick indicates that he is trying a little too hard, that his elaborate formality of speech just missed being absurd. So in his mansion, Gatsby has a library with English oak paneling designed to resemble one you might find in an Oxford college. The character All Eyes, who doesn't really know Gatsby at all, is hugely impressed by the realistic appearance of the library, although he notes that the pages of the books remain uncut and are unread. So what does this really tell you about Gatsby having all these books but not really reading them, stacking them on the shelves, not reading them though? So Gatsby aims to protect the image of an old world aristocrat. He actually comes across as an extravagant yet very thorough new world showman. Now, in terms of the war, we are told that Gatsby did extraordinarily well in the war. His brave conduct during the conflict resulted in promotion to the rank of major. So this enhanced his social status and seems to have made it easier for him to make useful connections, a scheme that enabled American officers to attend European universities also led to him spending 5 months at Oxford. So seeing him from another angle, however, the war was disastrous for Gatsby. As a young lieutenant, before leaving to fight in France, he met Daisy Fay, the girl he's crazy about, in Louisville, Kentucky, and fell head over heels in love. During his absence overseas, however, Daisy met and married Tom Buchanan, therefore didn't really wait for him. The conduct of Gatsby's life from that moment had a single goal: to win back Daisy's love and to take her away from her husband, Tom Buchanan. The intensity of that obsession separates Gatsby from the crowd. He is a man driven by desire and his life has purpose, but that obsession leads to his downfall and eventually his death. Now, in terms of image and reality, Gatsby presents himself as a wealthy American who doesn't need to work, but as Nick remarks, young men didn't just drift coolly out of nowhere and buy a palace on Long Island Sound, suggesting that he may be incriminated, or he's incriminating him with these activities of the underworld. In 3 years, Gatsby had made the money to buy this luxurious mansion. He did so through the criminal activity of bootlegging, supplying alcoholic drinks illegally. His close involvement with Wolfsheim suggests that he has taken part in other illicit activities that we don't know about, and Gatsby acts out the role of a sophisticated man of the world. Yet when he meets Daisy again after 5 years apart, he is overcome with embarrassment and nervousness, and Nick actually tells him, "You're acting like a little boy." The fact is, when James Gatz changed his name, he invented just the sort of J. Gatsby that a 17-year-old boy would be likely to invent, and to this conception, he was faithful to the end. Now, Nick also says that so he invented just the sort of J. Gatsby that a 70-year-old boy would be likely to invent. So directly quoted from the book, James Gatz transformed himself into J. Gatsby at a time in his life when experience of the world had not yet placed limits on his imagination, but the energy of his youthful vision lacked clarity of purpose. It remained a wild dream attaching itself to Daisy as an object of desire, and Nick admires the fact that to this conception he was faithful to the end, yet he is aware of the tragic consequences, which is very important. What else I could tell you? I could say that All Eyes compares Gatsby to David Belasco, a New York theater producer renowned for paying close attention to realistic details on the stage, and Belasco is said to have been so painstaking that once when he needed a restaurant setting, he bought a real one and had it moved to the theater and resembled on stage. He was also renowned for his spectacular use of new lighting techniques, which basically tells you about how Gatsby, or how the Great Gatsby, is actually great. Anyway, this is most of what I could talk about in terms of Gatsby. There's of course a lot more to talk about him for when it comes to his association with Daisy. There's little details about how they meet and how he talks to her, and how he knocks off that old clock, for instance, and how that resembles the stopping of time as symbolism for him to be associated with Daisy for eternity, for instance. Or maybe when he lashes out at Tom Buchanan at the Plaza Hotel. Or maybe how he gets shot by Wilson at the end of the novel. Oh yeah, these are everything, maybe all the points that I can think of when it comes to the importance of this very main character. Anyway guys, this is it. If you have any questions, contact me or drop them down below. Thank you very much and have a good day.